imperial law, made it impossible for the crown to appoint judges in Western Mass. So that's some of that history. Now, an interesting piece of that history is we don't think about how that ties in to all of us here in Western Wisconsin today, all that often, I don't think. And I wonder how often we are told that, in fact, those radical abolitionists who moved to Wisconsin in the 1840s were actually the children and the grandchildren of those self-same New England radicals, right? And it's true. They knew about, for them, the story of the American Revolution wasn't like something they had read. It was something that was told to them by their parents, by their uncles, by their aunts. They had come of age in that culture. And so there's some interesting stuff about Wisconsin, which is that, how many people here knew that Wisconsin almost seceded from the United States in the 1850s? A couple hands, right?
It did? It's just seceded?
Almost seceded. Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah, the state legislature took up secession proceedings because Wisconsin was deathly opposed to slavery, right?
Yay.
Our first article of our state constitution is abolition of slavery, and says that no fugitive from slavery shall be returned to bondage. In our Constitution still today, right? And the reason for that was that the people who wrote that Constitution came from two places. They came from New England. They were the children and grandchildren of the revolutionaries. They also came from Central Europe. They were revolutionaries, right? Karl Schurz was president of the German Commune in 1848, moved to Wisconsin, right? So there's some real, like, continual lineage here in terms of what people accomplished. When John Brown was fighting in Kansas, bloody Kansas, 2 of his 11 men were from Wisconsin. His quartermaster was from Wisconsin, right? That's a piece of our history here in Wisconsin. We all grew up. We know about the progressive tradition. We don't necessarily hear about the struggle over the Fugitive Slave Act in the 1850s. We don't hear about Wisconsin's role in the abolition movement. We don't hear about Wisconsin's role in forming a progressive third party that took power, the Republican Party. We talk about the Ripon Society. We don't really know who these people were. They really were communists. They were free love advocates. They were all the things that people accused them of being. And I could go on and on about just this history because I find it very inspirational. But the thing that I want to sort of do is draw the line a little bit further. So we've gone from the Revolution to Wisconsin abolition. Well, you know who some of these Wisconsin abolitionists mentored? They mentored people like Belle Case La Follette and Bob La Follette when they were young. These folks actually knew each other. They went to school together. For example, there was a guy named William Woodall who was from New England. And he and his daughter moved here in 1854. They moved to Janesville. And Lavinia Woodall was the first woman to practice law in the state of Wisconsin. Nobody's ever heard of her, right? Never heard of her. She edited an abolitionist newspaper. She was a suffragist. She was an immigrant rights advocate. She went to school with a woman named Belle Case La Follette, right? She was a self-taught lawyer, and then she went to law school later on. Helped to mentor Belle Case La Follette. Karl Schurz, who I mentioned earlier, was an amazing anti-imperialist. He was born in Germany, moved to Wisconsin. He started the Milwaukee Sentinel. The slogan on the Milwaukee Sentinel was forward to a workers' republic. That was actually where our state motto came from, right? So again, what I'm trying to show is that that I think this is our opportunity in a moment when people really are looking to the United States for the first time in generations for inspiration. This is our opportunity to relearn our own history, our own very radical history that has, in my view, brought about everything that's good about this country. Now that some of that goodness is coming to the fore, let's figure out why and revise our history, revise our understanding where we came from. And I don't think I need to tell folks here, how the progressive movement fed into who we are here today, right? We know our 20th century history. So, we're standing on a tradition that we can be proud of. And I think it's time to turn the door, frankly, close the door, close the page on this period of self-negation, self-criticism, of incessant bickering on the left, and to really start looking forward. And then that raises the question, well, what are we looking forward to? And I think we know a lot of the answers to that. There's a lot of issues people have been working on for a long time. See that some people are thinking about their pet issue. I can hear some of them. Something you actually want to achieve, now you think you might have a moment to achieve it?
Public transportation, because you help the bottom rise up, and then they can work on bigger issues.
Excellent. Public transportation, help the bottom rise up. Other folks, what are you actually going to achieve in the next 5 years?
Revitalizing the railway system.
All right, there's a lot of public transportation and rail advocates here. I'd like to see that. I'd love to have Amtrak coming back to Madison, I'll tell you that. Yeah.
Bring the troops home.
Bring the troops home. Excellent. And what are we going to do once they're home?
Give them all health care.
There we go. Single payer. We got a long raft of solutions, and I think this is very positive because there's been a lot of things that have been incubating.
Local food.
Local food. Yeah, exactly. Local food. I mean, and that actually feeds into something else, which I think a lot of us have been working on, which I know you guys have a big renewable energy event every year, right? Yep. So there's a lot of stuff that's been incubating for a long time. And I'd like to suggest that there's a number of things that may come to pass in the next couple of years that sort of will make all these issues seem minor. Because you think again about what people were struggling for in the time of abolition, the time of the revolution. Yeah, they wanted to change social policy to make the quality of life better for everybody, right? Or for some people, depending on who they were, right? Let's be honest. But they were also struggling for something else, which was a change in the way in which power was exercised. They're struggling to change the rules. And if we're going to achieve things like local food systems that are meaningful, or if we're going to have the ability of municipalities to start new energy utilities that really push the shift to green energy forward, if we're going to be successful in ensuring that municipalities have the funding they need in order to provide public transportation in a meaningful way, then we're also going to have to change the relationship between local governments and the state and federal governments, right? We're going to have to give municipalities more power. And it's kind of a democratic federalism that's in the offing, in which power really does devolve lower down the chain here. I think we also have an opportunity for a different kind of Americanism that looks back to the Americanism of Carl Schurz and Thomas Paine, an internationalist Americanism. I mean, we have a great opportunity right now. We have a global economic crisis, but yet we have a hemisphere that we are a part of, which has moved significantly to the left in the last 5 or 6 years. Thank you, George Bush, for helping to make that happen. Thank you, Bill Clinton, too, for your economic policies that created the conditions that have moved Argentina and Brazil and Venezuela and Bolivia to the left. We have an opportunity to re-engage with Central and South America in a way that's much more cooperative. We have a lot to learn from them. We can bring some of the experimentalism and some of the things that they've been putting into practice, like participatory budgeting, in which citizens get together at the municipal level and they actually set the budget priorities. They do this in cities of millions of people. They do it in Bogota in Colombia, where they have a communist mayor, right? They do that in Porto Alegre, that's where it started, in Brazil. They do it in Seville, Spain. So they can copy this model of participation of true democracy all over the world. We can certainly bring it here. We can bring it to La Crosse, right? So I think there's a lot of opportunity, and I think that the thing that we really need to think about is, what is broadening our vision, frankly, is to getting beyond the very sort of narrow confines that we were operating in our entire lives. It's almost difficult to do. You can tell I'm having a little bit of difficulty trying to figure out how I should convey what I intend to say to all of you, because the reality is that we have all grown up in a society in which we were bounded in terms of our imagination. We were limited in terms of what we thought was possible. And so we said, well, there's going to be big healthcare companies. What can we do, considering that these major healthcare corporations are out there, to make things a little bit more equitable? We're going to be living in a society that's dependent on the automobile. So what are we going to do to improve public transportation considering that fact? But we really do have an opportunity to move far beyond that.